You ever notice how life has a way of creeping up on you? One moment, you're full of energy, working, raising kids, laughing with friends, and then, just like that, you wake up one day and you're 70. And if you're lucky, maybe even older. But here's the thing. Most people don't make it too far past that milestone. Maybe they get a few years, maybe a little more, but the decline is real. And doctors, well, they've got a list of reasons why. Now, before you start thinking this is one of those doom and gloom talks, let me stop you. This isn't about fear. This is about understanding. Because if you know why people fade so fast after 70, maybe, just maybe, you can do something about it. And if you're younger, even better. Because the clock never stops, and trust me, you'll want to be prepared. So let's get to it. Why do so many people start to break down after 70? Why does life, after decades of experience and wisdom, suddenly seem to take more than it gives? Doctors have their theories, but those of us who've been around long enough, we see it for what it really is. It's not just one thing. It's a slow unraveling of the body, the mind, and most dangerously, the spirit. Let's start with the body, because that's what everyone notices first. The aches that don't go away, the energy that doesn't return, the strength that fades no matter how much you try to hold on to it. Doctors will tell you it's biology. Muscle loss, they call it. Sarcopenia. A fancy word for the fact that after 40, your body starts to strip away your muscle mass like a house slowly falling apart. And by the time you hit 70, well, if you haven't been careful, you're losing muscle at a dangerous rate. Less strength means less movement. Less movement means less circulation. Less circulation means your body starts to shut down in places you don't even realize until it's too late. And it's not just the muscles. The heart, that engine you've been running for decades, starts to weaken. Not always because of disease, though that happens too, but because of inactivity. You see, a body that moves stays alive. A body that stops, it starts to rust, just like an old car left in the rain. Blood pressure creeps up. Sugar levels start acting up. The arteries, once smooth highways, get clogged and rough, making it harder for the heart to push life through the body. It's slow at first, a little more fatigue here, a little dizziness there. But before you know it, you're one fall away from never getting up again. And speaking of falls, doctors will tell you that breaking a hip at 70 is like rolling the dice with your life. Not because of the injury itself, but because of what it does to the rest of you. You stop moving, you stop healing, you stop fighting. And that's when the real trouble starts. But physical problems? That's only part of the story. The real danger comes from what happens in the mind. See, most people don't realize this, but your mind is like a garden. If you stop tending to it, weeds take over. Neglect it for too long, and you won't even recognize the place anymore. Memory loss, confusion, the slow slipping away of everything you used to know. It starts small, like forgetting where you put your keys. But then, one day, you forget something bigger. A face, a name, a moment that meant something to you. And that's when it starts to scare you. Because if you lose your memories, what's left? Doctors have words for this too. Dementia, Alzheimer's, cognitive decline. They'll talk about plaques in the brain, about neural connections fading, about genetics and risk factors. But let me tell you something. The mind goes quiet long before science can explain it. And often, it starts with something most people overlook: loneliness. You ever wonder why some people seem sharp and full of life, even in their 80s and 90s, while others start fading in their 60s? It's not just luck, it's connection, it's purpose. It's waking up and feeling like you matter to someone, to something. The minute you lose that, the clock starts ticking faster. And unfortunately, after 70, a lot of people start to feel like they don't matter anymore. Their kids are grown, busy with their own lives. Their friends? Some have moved away, others are gone. Retirement, once seen as freedom, turns into isolation. And isolation? That's the killer no one talks about. It sneaks up on you. At first, it's just more quiet days. Then, it's whole weeks without real conversation. Then, before you know it, you're staring at the walls, wondering when the last time someone really saw you was. Loneliness doesn't just hurt the heart, it damages the brain. Studies show that people who are socially isolated have a 50% higher risk of developing dementia. 50%. That's not a coincidence. The mind needs engagement just like the body needs movement. Take that away and everything starts to shut down, and then there's the spirit. The part of you that can't be measured in a doctor's office but can be seen in the way you carry yourself. This is the part that keeps people alive long after their bodies should have given out. And it's also the part that makes people give up when, physically, they still have years left. A person without a reason to wake up in the morning will not last long, no matter how good their health is. It's that simple. The world doesn't prepare you for what happens after 70, after retirement, after the kids move on. It doesn't teach you how to rebuild, how to rediscover, how to keep living when the world seems to have moved on without you. But here's the truth. 70 is not an expiration date. It's not the beginning of the end. It's just another chapter. The problem is, too many people don't know how to turn the page. And that's what we need to talk about. Because if you want to make it past 70, if you want to live, not just survive, you need to understand what's happening to you, what's happening around you, and most importantly, what you can do about it. This isn't about magic cures or pretending aging doesn't exist. It's about taking control of what you can, because while some things are out of your hands, a lot more isn't. Aging isn't the enemy, giving up is, and that's what gets most people after 70. They stop fighting, stop adapting, stop pushing themselves to stay engaged with life. It's not their fault, not entirely. The world makes it easy to slow down, to step aside. But slowing down isn't the problem. Stopping is? Let's get into it. How do you fight back? How do you keep yourself strong when everything around you seems to be telling you to wind down? First, let's talk about movement. If you remember one thing from this conversation, let it be this: motion is life. Your body was built to move, and the second you stop using it, you start losing it. Doesn't matter how old you are, muscle doesn't care about birthdays. If you use it, it stays. If you don't, it goes. And when it goes, everything else follows. Doctors will tell you to exercise, and they're right. But the problem is, most people hear that and think, I'm too old for the gym, or I don't have the energy for that. Listen, I'm not talking about lifting weights like a bodybuilder or running marathons. I'm talking about something much simpler, staying active in whatever way you can every single day. Walk, stretch, do light resistance exercises. If you can't do much, do what you can. If you can do more, do more. It's not about being an athlete. It's about keeping your body from rusting out. Sarcopenia, the muscle loss that speeds up in old age, isn't something you have to accept. You can fight it, and fighting it means better balance, fewer falls, stronger bones, and a healthier heart. But here's the problem. Most people don't think about this until it's too late. They wait until they're already weak before they start trying to get stronger. That's like waiting for a house to start crumbling before deciding to fix the foundation. Start now, wherever you are, even if it's just a few minutes a day. Because every step you take now is a step toward a longer, healthier life. And while we're talking about the body, let's talk about food. There's no way around it. What you eat determines how well you age. The biggest mistake people make after 70? They stop eating enough protein. They think, I'm not as active, I don't need it. Wrong. You need it more than ever. Your body is constantly breaking down muscle, and without enough protein, you won't rebuild it. And when you don't rebuild it, you get weaker. Think of your meals like fuel. If you put junk into an engine, don't be surprised when it breaks down. The same goes for your body. Too much sugar, too many processed foods, not enough real nutrition, it all adds up. And one day, You wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are. But let's not stop at the body. Because the truth is, even if your body is strong, it won't matter if your mind is slipping away. The mind is like a muscle. It needs to be worked, challenged, engaged. The moment you stop learning, stop thinking critically, stop pushing yourself to grow, you start to fade. And the scariest part? You won't even notice it happening. You ever hear people say, "I used to be sharper"? That's not just aging, that's neglect. The brain doesn't just lose power because of time. It loses power because people stop using it the way they used to. Reading, puzzles, learning new skills, these things matter. But more than that, conversation matters. Talking, debating, sharing ideas. This is what keeps the mind awake. This is what keeps people sharp at 80 when others start slipping at 60. And that brings us to the most dangerous enemy of all, loneliness. People think loneliness just makes you feel sad. But no, loneliness kills. It raises stress levels, weakens the immune system, accelerates dementia, increases the risk of heart disease, and shortens lifespan. After 70, many people start losing their social circles. Friends pass away, families get busy, routines change. Before they know it, they're spending days at a time without real conversation. And here's what people don't understand. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely isolated if you don't feel seen, heard, valued. That's why staying engaged with life is non-negotiable. If you don't actively seek connection, it will slip away. This is where hobbies, volunteering, joining groups, and staying in touch with family come in. Not just as a way to pass the time, but as a way to keep yourself alive. And then, there's the hardest part of all. Purpose. This is the one nobody talks about. The thing that makes the difference between someone who lives well into their 90s and someone who gives up before 75. It's not just genetics. It's not just luck. It's having a reason to wake up every morning. Purpose is what keeps the fire inside you burning. When you have no purpose, your body knows it. Your mind knows it. Your spirit knows it. And little by little, you start shutting down. You ever notice how some people retire and seem to fade within a few years? It's not because they suddenly got old. It's because they stopped doing anything that gave their life meaning. But on the flip side, look at people who stay engaged, who keep teaching, mentoring, creating, contributing. They stay sharp. They stay strong. They live longer. And they live better. So here's the real question. What's your reason to keep going? It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be yours. Maybe it's teaching your grandkids what life has taught you. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's helping others. Maybe it's traveling, learning, growing, pushing yourself to keep experiencing life. Whatever it is, you have to hold on to it. Because the moment you stop having a reason to keep going, your body, mind, and spirit will follow. And this is the hard truth most people don't want to face. Aging doesn't kill you, giving up does, but you don't have to give up. You don't have to let the world tell you that after 70, it's time to slow down and fade away. You can fight back. Move your body. Feed it well. Keep your mind sharp. Stay connected. Find your purpose, because if you do, you won't just survive. Past 70. You'll live. You know, people talk about aging like it's something that just happens to you, like a slow wave that comes in whether you like it or not. But that's not the whole truth. Aging isn't just about the body getting older, it's about the mind deciding whether or not to keep up. And that's where a lot of people lose the fight. It's not just physical decline that gets people after 70. It's mental decline. And no, I'm not just talking about memory loss or cognitive issues. I'm talking about something deeper. The way people think about aging, about themselves, about their future. See, somewhere along the way, society started teaching people that 70 is old, that retirement means slowing down, that after a certain age, you're just supposed to accept things as they are. The world starts treating you differently, like you're fragile, like your best days are behind you, like you should just sit down and take it easy. And if you hear something enough times, you start to believe it. That's the real danger. Not just what happens to your body, but what happens in your mind. You ever notice how some people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s are still sharp, active, full of life? And then others seem to shrink, to fade, to stop trying. What's the difference? It's not just health, it's mindset. The ones who keep going, the ones who refuse to let age define them, have one thing in common. They don't accept the idea that they're too old for anything. Too old to learn something new? Nonsense. Too old to travel? Nonsense. Too old to exercise, to grow, to create, to challenge yourself? Nonsense. The moment you start believing that you're too old for something, you start making it true. You know what doctors and scientists have found? People who expect to decline after 70 actually do. Their brains and bodies follow the script they believe in, but people who believe they still have time, people who see themselves as capable, strong, still alive, those people tend to live longer and they live better. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's real. Think about it. If you believe you're too old to exercise, will you even try? If you believe you're too old to meet new people, will you put yourself out there? If you believe your best days are behind you, will you even bother planning for new experiences? No. And that's why so many people start dying before they actually die. Because they stop trying. They stop setting goals, stop learning, stop making an effort. They let life happen to them instead of deciding to keep living on their own terms. Now here's the thing. Your body will age no matter what. That's biology. But how you handle it? That's up to you. And it all starts with how you think. If you see yourself as done, then you are. But if you see yourself as someone who still has time, still has things to do, people to love, places to see, wisdom to share, then you won't just survive after 70, you'll thrive. But this isn't just about attitude, it's about action. Because belief without action, that's just empty hope. You have to prove to yourself that you're still alive by living. What does that mean? It means challenging yourself every single day. Every time you do something new, you remind your brain that you're not done yet, that you're still growing. Because the people who make it past 70 and stay truly alive are the ones who refuse to let themselves get stuck in their ways. Stagnation is the real killer. If your life looks exactly the same at 75 as it did at 65, that's a problem. Because if you're not growing, you're shrinking. And I know change is hard. Trying new things at an older age can feel strange, even intimidating. But you have to ask yourself, what's the alternative? Sitting in the same chair, watching. The same TV shows, doing the same routine every day until time finally catches up with you? Or do you want to live? Because let me tell you something. Life doesn't stop giving you opportunities just because you hit a certain age. People stop taking those opportunities. You have a choice right now. No matter how old you are, no matter what your situation is, you have a choice. You can accept decline, or you can fight for your time. And I'm telling you, if you choose to fight, if you choose to keep moving, keep learning, keep pushing yourself to experience more, you will live longer and you will live better. But it's not just about you. See, one of the biggest things that keeps people alive after 70? Other people. Not just having them around, but contributing to their lives. Feeling needed. Feeling like you matter. Because nothing makes a person fade faster than feeling like they have nothing left to give. And that's the real secret. The people who live the longest, the ones who stay strong and sharp, they don't just focus on themselves, they focus on others. They mentor, they teach, they share their wisdom, they help younger generations, they find ways to be useful, and in doing that, they give themselves a reason to keep going. Because here's the truth. Your story isn't over. Not unless you decide it is. Aging isn't what takes people down after 70. Giving up does. It's not just the body that slows. It's the spirit, the mind, the willingness to keep moving, learning, and connecting. Too many people accept decline as inevitable when, in reality, they have far more control than they realize. The truth is, you don't have to fade away just because you've reached a certain age. You can fight muscle loss by staying active. You can keep your brain sharp by challenging it daily. You can combat loneliness by staying connected, involved, and engaged with the world. And most importantly, you can keep your spirit alive by finding purpose, by waking up every day with something to do, something to give, something to look forward to. 70 isn't the end. It's just another chapter. And if you turn the page with intention, with curiosity, with a willingness to keep living, you might just find that your best years are still ahead.